Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I will start by introducing Bassam Touma, our Business Development Director for SHELT Global, and Mo our SOC Manager for SHELT Global as well. Now, before giving the floor to Bassam, I would like to ask you, and if in case you have any question, please feel free to tap them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and we will try to reply to all of you, to all your questions as much as we can. I wish you a fruitful webinar with us. Bassam?
Thank you, Maysam. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar from SHELT. SHELT is a cybersecurity company, and today's webinar is really focusing on digital risk, mapping them, and how effectively can we, as an organization, give you the appropriate tools and techniques to quantify them, and of course, as any risk, mitigate them. So basically, this is a webinar to showcase a little bit our understanding of cyber risk and how what we see, especially in Africa, and how we work with our clients as well, but also to give you more ideas about how you can take this forward to your organization. So thanks. We really appreciate your presence, everyone. And I already know some of you, and really it's a pleasure to connect with you again. So I'm going to start with my presentation, which will not take that much time. I'll be open to any questions. Please put it in the chat box or raise your hand so we can give you also as well voice for you to voice it out and ask the question. And my colleague Mo will be doing a small presentation about a newly introduced tools that SHELT is using for digital risk mapping, and how can we, support you as organizations and partners. So I'm going to start with my presentation, which will take around 15-20 minutes, not more. However, please feel free to, to ask a question whenever, and interrupt me even. I can answer it, or we can leave it till the end, and I will answer all your, I'll try to answer, and Mo will try to answer all your questions. So I hope that my screen is visible to you. Mo, can you see the screen?
Yes, Bassam, yes, it's visible.
Perfect. So today's topic is, we started with a question regarding digital risk. So we ask you, how's your digital risk? And this is a simple question like, how are you? However, as all of us who are expert in this domain, sometimes it's difficult to answer, straight away, because it doesn't come up on top of your head, or maybe you have your ways of assessing this question, and usually it takes rigorous understanding and rigorous application of different procedures and methodology, which I'm sure you are, as organizations, are doing. However, we want to highlight more how effective can we, as SHELT, provide you with an automation of such a process in order to map your digital risks. And also we want to little bit tap into the implication of these risks from a financial perspective, because as cybersecurity experts and people who are in cybersecurity, we always go to enhance the security posture by asking more budgets and reinforcing with the tool. However, sometimes we fail to answer or to bridge the gap between what business really is willing to spend and to justify really these expenditures. So this is also a question that we'll try to answer throughout this presentation and demonstration. So, briefly, SHELT is a cybersecurity focused company and we provide services mainly from Europe, Middle East, and especially focused on the African continent with offices, as you know, in Kenya, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, soon in Ghana, and extending also our reach into different countries through partnerships and experienced, providers that are leaders in their respective field. Our service are always, somehow adapted with a managed service approach, where we will be able to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover an organization from any potential seen and unforeseen breach. So that's our core expertise. This presence is really fortified because we are doing good projects across, different countries. As I mentioned, based out of Cyprus, however, extending our reach into different, continents and countries. Our main objective is to always be agnostic towards technology and offer our service and capabilities to improve security posture, minimize operating costs, and eliminate security risks. I'm not going to go dwell about SHELT because the topic is more intuitive around digital risk. But we've been dealing with organizations of all sizes, from large global content security providers to banks and financial institutions, mobile operators. So we really offer our service to multiple industries, and we understand and map our services to the business need of such industry. So when it comes to digital risk or risk, first we understand currently that any organization has a business ecosystem around it. And this business ecosystem varies, of course. However, according to this picture, have main components that are, intrinsic and part of the organization value chain. So from logistic, R&D, joint ventures, sales, support, of course, technology, sourcing, marketing, etc. Every organization is have these type of activities, and in many cases, they are somehow sourcing or outsourcing or interacting with vendors and third parties to offer either the full let's say, function as a fully outsourced or a partial. Let's say, from a human resource perspective, you might have a recruitment agency that you are interacting with. So this type of interaction requires access. And this type of access causes a specific risk on the organization. Of course, when you're doing your overall risk assessment and adopting a risk strategy, you are evaluating your suppliers, your vendors across the supply chain. Whomever is supporting you, you're assessing them from different perspectives. We're going to focus mainly on the cyber risks because this is our expertise and the topic of this session. So from a cyber perspective, mainly, what we want to really focus on is the type of digital access you are exposing yourself to across your supply chain. So in order to understand your cyber hygiene as an organization, really it's not anymore about your infrastructure alone. Okay, your infrastructure is very important. However, what we call third-party infrastructure is even more important. Let's say, I'm going to give a concrete example, the SolarWinds hacks that happened or breach that happened that really affected a lot of organizations across the world because a lot of these organizations are relying somehow on this technology. And from a risk perspective, it had a critical impact on different organizations that are using this technology or even that are outsourcing part of its service to a service provider using this technology. So whether you know that you have it within your environment or maybe a third party that you're dealing with or have it in his environment will have an impact on you. So a need for risk assessment around your organization, of course, cyber hygiene is critical, but also extending it to your third party is even more. And here we're highlighting, some of the type of organization that you might be dealing with, okay, that you are providing them either data access, network access, or any type of, software access, because sometimes also you have third parties that are accessing your own setups, of course, in a limited manner, using specific controls and roles enforced. However, still they are using your infrastructure. So there is a need really to do this risk assessment, and I'm sure that most of you are doing it. However, we see a lot of organizations that are really doing it manually. So manual risk assessment is been done on a risk classification methodology that we're going to highlight in a few slides. They are doing some questionnaires to evaluate their vendors, their first party, second party, and third party vendors. They're doing, of course, penetration testing on their environment, or let's say if they acquire an application from a sourcing vendor, they will do penetration testing, you will do audits, etc. But these have their challenges by themselves. These type of assessments, I'm not saying that they are not, addressing the pain point, but their challenge, or they are increasing the effort from the organization, especially to source auditors and assessors. It's time consuming. It incur increased cost on you the moment you want to assess your digital risks on you and on your third party. There is, of course, increased cost. It's a repetitive work for every third party application, so you need to repeat the same over and over again. It's a point in time because you're doing an audit or a penetration test or a questionnaire at a point in time, so it doesn't evolve with the changing threat landscape. Let's say you've evaluated one of your vendors and it was an acceptable risk for you, okay, and you proceeded. However, with time, the threat landscape will change. So, for example, a new vulnerability will occur on the system that you weren't made aware of at the point of the assessment. That means, these type of assessments are fixed, and usually they are repeated every now and then, every few years. Sometimes penetration testing is done, of course, on a yearly basis or on a bi-yearly, but it's still a point in time type of assessment. So from a risk classification perspective and assessment, of course, you are building your model. There are many models, but you are building your model on the level of risks from low to critical, and you're building your model based on the operational risk, and you're drawing a line between what is acceptable and what needs to be remediated. And this is, mitigation, because what's acceptable for you is a residual risk that is, you will accept it, whether it has a financial implication, reputational implication, or any other implication. So usually this type of modeling takes time. It takes effort to build, and you need to do it, especially if you're doing for third parties that you are engaging with. You need to repeat it and include these third parties as well in order to draw conclusion of whether you want to work with this company, or you want to adopt this software, or you want to do any activity or take any decision. So questionnaires, again, you send out questionnaires, they fill it in, you need to validate that, it's a point in time again. You might have a lot of communication issues to send spreadsheets. You have to have, you'll have difficulty in version because you need to update it regularly, and it's really time consuming and requires resources. Of course, penetration testing and audits, you are doing it, but it's definitely needed. But the results from a risk perspective, have also their pitfall. They need physical interaction. You need to validate the findings. You need to do retesting as well, and they are not synced according to the changing threat landscape, which is moving quite actively. So our solutions or our methodology evolves around automating the digital risk, let's say, landscape, and understanding it from an external perspective, okay, by mapping different data sources already existing on the internet, whether from different domain names, DNS hygienes, subdomains, your presence online, pulling out these data resources about also your third-party domains. So, for example, you're using a specific company for a specific service and you're outsourcing some specific function to it. It can be included as part of the overall global risk assessment or digital risk assessment or digital risk mapping, in order to really pull out all information that is already available, and we will demonstrate that on the internet, and draw a high-level map from a three-dimensional, let's say, perspective. It will draw automatically, and you will see it during the demo, the overall cyber rating based on the different MITRE frameworks for cybersecurity, of course. It will draw a financial or probable financial impact based on the FAIR model, which we will also discuss. And it will draw a compliance report for you as an organization, definitely, and for your third parties as well. So it's a very important step, because at the end of the day, compliance and regulatory requirements are okay. They really make us work hard, and but they are there to really reinforce or minimize our risk and reinforce our cybersecurity posture. So, and with the kind of automation used by the tool and by SHELT methodology, we will be able to have an understanding of your breach index. So basically, how susceptible you are to a breach when using these type of resources that you have already exposing to the internet, and having also different third parties working with you. The tool is also able, along with our analysts, curating it to draw a high-level real-time analytics and executive reporting. Again, it will give you the probable risk and financial implication of your as-is state by multiplying the loss event frequency with the loss magnitude. So it can be a high loss magnitude, however the frequency is low, and we can talk about it. Mo will take you throughout the methodology of applying this risk, etc., and the frequency, the vulnerabilities you have. So we will be able to passively understand your environment from the outside, looking for known vulnerabilities without even, of course, scanning or touching your environment. And we'll be able to draw these deep assessment with an intuitive dashboard on a three-dimensional analysis from cyber risk rating, as we mentioned, probable financial risk, and compliance status. Even we can go into the different details and categories from how to safeguard your data, which is the most important assets of your organization, and really that the data that you need to focus on, because this is what digital risk is all about. Your privacy as well, and how far you are from different compliance requirements. Your resiliency to attacks as well, which is how are you protected? What are your different, how we see it from outside, the different, security controls that we have applied. And of course, touching a little bit on the reputation. However, this is not really very strong, but it's a very high level reputational exposure. And from compliancy, it's really detailed compliancy matrix according to known standards and frameworks like the NIST 800, the PCI DSS, the ISO 27001, COBIT, GDPR, etc. So it's a really one overview about all these different, regulatory and requirement and best practices. So you will be able to see yourself against standardized approaches around the world and different industries and similar industries around the world. So our findings will be based on the tool where we'll be able to do a digital asset discovery of your external environment. So how we see it from the outside, enumerate the different CWEs and CVEs, reduce the false positive with our curated cyber analyst, applying the different CAPEX severities, CVSS scores, and CWE severities, and then construct and build this threat matrix for you. So basically, we are able to really minimize the effort and automate internal cybersecurity risks, and we'll see it, and external facing cybersecurity risks, as Mo will mention. And whatever, let's say, usually doing a risk assessment over one entity or over a third party will take 4 weeks, we are able to reduce this very drastically into 60 minutes type of effort. And we can, the good thing about it is that it is not a point in time, because it is monitored in real time and continuously updated. So you don't have to worry about rework, you don't have to worry about versioning, you don't have to worry about sourcing this type of exercise every time to invalidating the company that is doing it. It's all maintained online for you to be able to check it and update it. And of course, we will minimize the cost drastically, minimize the resources required as needed. So here it's a little bit how much we can automate this process for risk management and digital risk mapping, let's say, on your environment. So that's my few slides of presentation. I know that I might have been quick, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So I'm gonna let the demonstration of the service itself do the talk. But if you have any question, I don't know if we see some questions here that we can answer. Let me check. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand and we can give you the right to speak. Okay, I see someone. Maybe Maisam, we can see who is giving him the microphone, please. Access. Sadiq.
Yes.
So Sadiq.
Yes, it's Sadiq Bello and
Yes.
Mr. Richard Daye. Yeah, just 1 second.
Good afternoon,
Right.
Bassam.
Hello, Sadiq.
Hi.
Hi.
Mo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Good
Sorry,
afternoon.
good afternoon from Nigeria, actually.
Sorry, I cannot. I don't know if it is my. You're
hear me?
breaking.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
now it's better. Yeah.
It's better. Okay. Okay. So thank you for the presentation. I think it's been quite insightful. So I'm trying to validate a couple of other things based on the things you mentioned from your presentation. So when you mentioned around the risk rating methodology in Black Kite, so for an organization that you mentioned that there is a fair methodology, and I think there's one other one stated. So for an organization that has, based on their own enterprise risk management framework, they have some kind of other framework they also want to implement, can they manually configure those requirements on the platform? Like I have maybe, for example, there is a requirement under the Basel framework, and I want to set that up so that I can also generate reports based on Basel. So can I do that?
Mo, can please answer Sadiq?
Yes, sure. Currently in Black Guide, there is only, around the 12 or 14 known regulations. There is a possibility to update and upload manually related data or related regulations to the company, and this will surely update the security posture of the company, and this will surely minimize the risk and the risk from technical and from a money perspective, as per the FAIR model. There is no custom-made policies or regulations that can be added currently to the platform. Maybe soon, or maybe later on, they will be added as well on the.
Allow me also to add to Mo's. Definitely in this solution, it is not possible. However, we're building even a bigger one, which also addresses the internal weaknesses. Let's say not like a vulnerability scanner, but also from configuration perspective, and can automate also the discoveries there. And it also can be benchmarked against, let's say, configuration against standards, known standards, and you can manually interact or upload new benchmarks. But this is not yet ready. That's why we didn't include it in this presentation. But soon enough, I hope we can demonstrate that. So I hope we answered your question. Let me. Yeah. Yes. So
Thank you for the response to that. So my second question goes thus. You mentioned that the Black Hat solution does digital asset discovery on the internet. So if I want to do asset discovery within my organization, can it do that for me? Like to discover in my own, and I want to be keeping an inventory of such and I'm using it at every point in time.
Mo, you want to answer?
For the Black Guide, it's only doing it passively from outside the network. Nothing is done internally. But I think, Bassam, do you have a news regarding that as well? Do you have?
Yes. So your question, Sadiq's really pushing us to fast track because we're expanding this solution with other tools of ours, and to be able to, address these specific questions. So you have to wait for a few more weeks, and we are more than happy to demonstrate that you maybe directly without the need of a webinar. But I think your questions really validating our choices and our decision forward. So, but soon enough, I think there is a different discussion that will happen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. That's fine. So I think my last question would be around the compliance report. So for compliance report, we mentioned it does PCI DSS and all of that. Each of these standards, there are different twists to the risk assessment done on each asset. So the standards that are covered, do I have cloud security standard covered, and also cyber security that in 27,032, and also SWIFT? Are they covered? SWIFT, which is ISO 20022.
We do have the PCI, but Swift it's not yet implemented since the Swift requirements and regulations mostly occurs for the internal network and how things are made and how the payments are has been done between the Swift servers and outside. So basically, it's not yet implemented on Black Kite yet. We do have the PCI. But it's more into passive scanning, and it shows it will automatically fill the fields or some of the controls related to PCI, and it will keep like a small field to add manual comments and to add manual inputs to the PCI to make it more getting more related stuff related to the company and to the assets as well. So basically, unfortunately, no, we don't have something related to Swift.
Okay, what about for cloud? What about for cloud and cybersecurity? Cloud security and cybersecurity.
We do have, I think, regulations related to cloud inside the Black Hat. I think, going forward on the demonstration, we will showcase this as well.
Yeah, let's do, I think, the demo because we're really close in time, and we can maybe have at the end some more questions, maybe answer throughout the demo, or we can have another session, and tackle all these different questions. But let's do a demo first. Maybe there will be more. There will be clarified. This question will be clarified. Thank you, Sadiq. And I think there was some questions from another gentleman who raised his hand.
You can go ahead with the demonstration.
Sure.
Then I can ask the question there.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, Mo, please, with the demo.
So thank you, Bassam. Actually, you always make it easier for us to demonstrate the application with that much clarifications on the application. So now let me first allow me to share my screen, and please confirm whenever my screen, Bassam, is my screen able to show on the desktop?
Yeah, it is uploading, I think. Yeah, we can. Yeah. We can go ahead.
Okay. Amazing. So first of all, let me just mention the importance of this one thing, which is we are currently using an example corporation, which is an open source online website that there is no we already have the consent of it, and we can use it to do the demonstrations and to showcase the application and its results. So basically, to go back to what Bassam mentioned in the presentation, and this application, what we care about is to cover the different point of views inside each company. So actually, we do know that we do have part related to cybersecurity and IT, which is more technical, and we do have parts related to compliance and regulations. And we do have like more part related to business and losses and money and so on. So for that reason, the Black Kite covers these three aspects, which is the technical aspects from the cyber rating and the technical report, and the business aspect and the losses from the financial impact, which will surely work as on FAIR report. We will go more into details regarding the FAIR model. And finally, from a compliance rating, which is related to the compliance and regulations. To do so, it's very important to get. It's very important to get it's very important to get from each company to showcase. Just 1 second to make it showing. It's very important to do like the digital footprinting for each domain and for each company, and to get the info related for that company from the assets, from the public IPs, from the SSLs, from the services used. So these data are very important to do our study and to showcase and to compare the assessment of Black Kite from a risk point of view and from a cyber risk behavior. So basically, the first important thing we do in Black Kite is to gather the IPs, the domains, the subdomains, the services, the DNS records, and all of these are done passively through the scanners of Black Kite. Nothing is done actively, nothing will harm the companies, nothing will do any bad things to the company. So whenever we got this digital footprinting, we then do from a technical perspective and from a technical point of view, we do 4 different categorizations related to this company. So basically, we care about the safeguard of this company, about the privacy of this company, the resiliency and the reputation. So as you can see here on the screen, we do have this table showcasing the different topics under each category. So the thing that I would like to mention here, that each of this topic is correlated to the another. So if we can get here, if we can see there is something related to fraudulent domains and fraudulent apps. So usually fraudulent domain and fraudulent apps are used by hackers to get a fake pages or a fake applications to steal the info from customers or maybe from the internal employees. And then after stealing this info, maybe they'll use the email security and they'll use the network of this company to do their attack surface and to gather as much info as they can. So afterwards, they will check for any SSL related traffic or any patch management related thing to do a privilege escalation and to reach to a point that they can hack the company, that they can get as much info as they can from the company. So basically, these are the 4 categories Black Kite showcase and provide much info related to the scoring. So basically, after doing this assessment, we can do later on a deep dive on them one by one. But for the time being, we will care about the scoring. So after doing this, there is like a scoring methodology that will give each company a scoring letter thing, and it will give it where this company stands as per the industry average for it, and we'll do like a category comparison as well as it will present us a vulnerability heat map. So basically that is from a technical perspective. But when we jump to a business perspective, knowing that if we need to go to the security committees and provide them like such reports with much more details and a lot of details related to technical, it's hard to get their outcome and it's hard to get their input on these results. So they care more about the facts and what it's showing from what is important to showing from a money-wise and financially and the risk from this point of view. So basically here the magic comes on Black Kite. So Black Kite uses the FAIR model. FAIR model is a model, basically it's a factor analysis of information risk. So basically this model is a worldwide known model. We can share more details about it later on. So it's a worldwide model used to calculate the financial impact of companies from a risk posture and a risk point of view. To do so, it's very important to fill in the parameters for each company to know the data owner of this company, to know the industry related to it, to know the simulation method related to it. This will help in the FAIR model, which Bassam previously presented and provided the calculation formula that provide us with the final scoring and the final lossing number. So whenever we fill in the parameter, we can here change the simulation method. So usually in security and cybersecurity, we care about the CIA. So here in the FAIR model, we care about the confidentiality and the availability, mostly related to the tools and to get like a financial scoring for this risk. So how it is calculated? Basically, when we talk about the loss magnitude and the loss frequency, We do here see like more percentages here, more numbers in here when we talk about frequency, while when we talk about magnitude, we see a huge numbers. So basically, if we compare the number shown in the magnitude and the frequency, it's very higher than the frequency. Why is that? So when we do the calculation for each company, we care a lot about the factors having on the company. So basically there is multiple factors. The one already automatically chosen, they were chosen due to the scanning and digital footprinting. So if any other category or any other field can be selected, this will surely give us a better view of the company. Aside of the factors, we do have like the exposure factor. The exposure factor is based on the country we define and the attribute. So the country that we define and the attribute, we will define the unit cost of this attribute, and the number of records are gathered also during our digital footprinting. So how we calculate the unit cost? It's something worldwide known. So in each country, there is like a margin or a unit loss related to it. So basically, since we filled in the country related to example, so we took the 233. For that reason, we reached the number shown here. Now we are talking about the primary loss and the secondary loss. So the primary loss, as we mentioned, it's very important, related to people and related to employee and related to the company itself. While the secondary loss is something related to secondary things or non-calculated things. Usually companies think about, or usually companies do a lot of risk assessments and do a lot of scannings, and maybe they use the assistance of multiple tools or multiple companies to do these calculations to know what may be the secondary losses of their company. So basically, once we get the secondary loss and the primary loss, we will add them together to get the loss magnitude. Going to the low frequency here, it's more into related to the digital footprinting done before. So going on to the resistance strengths, threat capability, and probability of actions, these will reach out to provide us like a loss frequency related to the company itself. Here, let me mention something related to vulnerability. It's very important to mention the vulnerabilities here, since usually the hackers and the attack surfaces used by the hackers all related to the vulnerabilities and the gaps on the assets themselves. So maybe they are related to the email and SMTP service. Maybe they are related to HTTP and web service. So here we are covering passively these public services, and we can get the vulnerabilities out of them, and we can compare and get the patches needed to implement on it. So what I need to mention here, going to the high number, which is 1.3 million, whenever we use a black kite from a technical perspective, and whenever we do like patches and fixes on these, all these numbers will be going down. And whenever we get these numbers down, we will get to a lower number as a financial risk.
Sorry, Mo, to interrupt you, but we really are very tight in the time. So maybe we can move beyond that, and we're more than happy to schedule one-on-one session with any interested party to go into the details. So if you can go on a high level, let's say,
sure thing.
Look through.
Sure thing. We already covered the financial impact. So now we were going to cover the compliance of the application. So another factor of the application, which is the compliance and regulations. As we know, companies nowadays care a lot about the regulations, about the compliance, about the benchmarks used to cover the security aspects of the data and the company. So here we are covering the most out of 14 known regulations. One of them are related to NIST, ISO, GDPR, which is related to data privacy. We do have some of COVID-5. We do have the PCI DSS, the CIS, the HIPAA, the CMMC. So usually on this application, we care about these 14 known compliances. So what is done here is, whenever a public information got scanned passively, this will fill in automatically the fields related to each of these regulation, and will give us like an initial percentage showing where we stand from this compliance. So this percentage could be get higher when we go into more details of it, and we can here upload certain policies, procedures, and we can fill in certain controls related to it as well. So basically, we try to cover from this application, we try to cover the three aspects from a business perspective, from a compliance and regulation perspective, and from a technical perspective. Hopefully,
maybe we can go into a little bit how we can do the manual workaround, which will be, assisting our customer in enhancing the findings of the tool, because the tool will not be able to really grasp all information, especially that is doing it passively.
Exactly.
I don't know more. It's not showing yet.
Exactly, like a GDPR, as Bassam said, GDPR here, there is multiple controls in place. So as much as we're doing it passively and from an external publicly network, so we are not filling all the controls, and we are not getting all the image of our GDPR standing. And here comes our efforts and our experience with assisting the companies filling in these controls and filling in the standing of these controls to see effectively where is GDPR standing, where is PCI DSS standing, and so on, going into the ISO. The magic here that we can through actions here we can import to the GDPR corp, or we can import to the ISO, or we can import to the PCI a certain regulation or a certain procedure, internal procedure, and a policy to do things also automatically after scanning them. So here comes, as Bassam said, our experience, our assistant to the company, and provide as much security as we can from these three different perspectives. So we are covering the cyber risk, and we're doing the digital risk mapping as we mentioned in our application and in our proposing.
Maybe also to highlight that you can do it for your own, of course, overall digital risk exposure, but you can do it for your third party. So any third party that you are dealing with can be also included similarly.
Exactly.
And then you can be able to really assess them continuously and making sure that they are meeting your internal requirements, but as well as other requirements. So it becomes much more easier for you to assess different companies that you are working with, any third party, even any footprint about any solution that you have, whether it's a core solution, especially your crown jewels, that you really want to make sure that they are assessed properly, can be included part of the overall assessment. So usually we start with the main organization, which is the main customers, and then we can add third parties along the way. So that's the basic methodology. However, it can be also, you can choose few specific third parties that you want to also include part of the assessment as well. And you can share with them the report, so they can also make sure that they address all their weaknesses, or let's say vulnerabilities and any other point of concerns, so to be able to meet either regulatory requirements or meet your internal requirements. So I think that's the brief we wanted to show you. I'm gonna take this opportunity to answer any question, or Mo will answer any question also from a tool perspective or from a methodology perspective. So if anybody has a question, please raise your hand or drop it in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer it as such.
Mr. Richard, do you still have any question?
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you.
If there is no more questions left, I don't know, Sadiq.
I have my hands up, actually.
Let me. Hello, Sadiq? Can you hear us? Maybe you should enable your
hello.
mic.
Hello, yes.
Yes,
I have the mic.
yes.
So thank you for the demo, Mo. So I noticed that you mentioned something around data consent collection and blah, blah, blah. That functionality, can it serve the purpose of like, if I want, like for me, I have data subjects that I want them to make a request for their data in terms of data subject access request, or something around anything request coming from the data subject based on the platform that I have collected their assets, I mean their data on the internet. Can it serve that kind of purpose?
Actually, if you're meaning that from different point of view and from different perspective from what we presented for the regulations related to the data, if it's related to the regulation presented in Black Cat and in the application, yes, for sure, we can try to mention it. Or but if it's not related to these regulations, I'm afraid we cannot do it. We cannot do it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mo.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Mr. Sadiq.
I think Ibunkun, Olua, you have a question? Go ahead. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you yet. Can you type your question if you're not able to speak? Hello? Mr. Amusan, can you hear us? Okay, so maybe your mic, you can enable. His mic is disabled. Mansan, please, can we enable?
Yes, nice, it is. Can you hear us?
If there is a problem with the
Mr.
mic,
Olua, can you hear us? Hello?
His mic is disabled. I think there is a
yes,
problem.
yes.
Yeah. We have a question about licensing from Mike. So Mike, licensing is based on number of domains being monitored, and attached to it there is a service from SHELT being offered. So it's a combination of service and license, which is subscribed. Of course, it's a subscription, yearly subscription, and you will have also access to the tool itself with the privilege required. So it's a managed service from Shell. And we can talk more about the licensing module. Please feel free to drop us an email, and we'll follow it up with you as well. And some of the account managers will be able to follow. Mr. Amusan, if you have a question, please. It seems that you have a problem. There is a problem with the connectivity or with the mic. Please. Okay, so I think the question is there any APIs that can be integrated to existing ARM platforms? What kind of APIs are open here?
Exactly, I think, but Sam, we need to know more about the connections and the APIs and how the data will be gathered from the platform. So maybe we can get the question by email, and we can get back to Mr. Amasan after this call.
So Mr. Amusan will follow it up with you. One of the BDMs will contact you, and we can have a session around your APIs and what is required from an API integration perspective. No problem. We'll get back to you on that, of course, with a private session. Any other question? So I think we don't have any more questions here. I would like to thank you for attending, and really appreciate your time. And I mean, in case you are interested in such a service, or you want to explore more how your exposure, answering the question, how exposed I am and what is my digital risk, we can answer it to you with a private demonstration, and then we can discuss more on how we can help in addressing any risk, cybersecurity risk challenge you might have. My son, maybe we can wrap it up. Thank you.
Hello, would like to thank you all for attending. Hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we will be waiting for your questions in case you have any question later on to assist you.
All right, thank you.
Have
everyone.
a great evening. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.